Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. We're at the top of the hour. We're going to talk about how to attract better paying patients. Yeah, just out of curiosity, Ryan, where are you at in the world?
San Luis Obispo, California. We have clinic locations in North Carolina, Arizona, and California.
Oh, everywhere. Nice.
Yeah, 25.
North Carolina and California. That's a pretty big.
Yeah, director model. Someone's family was over by Duke. Started scouting the Asheville area like 7 years ago and took the leap, took our model, and now we have 5 locations over there.
Awesome, man. Very cool. What are you doing right now to attract better paying patients?
Oh man, what aren't we doing? A lot of consistent messaging across all of our clinics. Since we're running the director model from a support team here, really trying to engage all of our digital aspects, our in-person. We get a lot of our referrals from physicians and the medical community. So talking to them about what out of network looks like, say we don't take some of those. We are really big on work comp. So playing what's the reimbursement per pair, trying to highlight those, not really, trying to avoid the preferential treatment idea versus, hey, we roll the red carpet out for these patients, but prioritizing our schedules to hopefully get those patients in as fast as possible.
Great. So workers' comp, we'll talk about partners a little bit. Yeah, I'll break this down, how I've seen it looked at and what works. And if you have any questions, feel free.
Yeah. The employer bubble has also been challenging if we don't offer like a one-stop shop or we don't do any on-site. We're so busy in the clinic and no one wants to be on site in our team right now. We have, through turnover, we have one or here and there. And we're like, awesome, we can finally offer this solution to this healthcare group or this hospitality group. And then we lose that person sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Like a transient position.
Man, but it would be so nice to be the one-stop shop, to be like, screaming from the mountaintops. Here we are.
Yep. Cool. How to track better paying patients. This is how I've seen it breaking down. 5 new patient pathways for any private practice. The first is reactivations, lowest hanging fruit. And then as we work our way up in terms of cost, whether it's time or money, it's referrals, mainly from 3 places: physicians, which you mentioned, Ryan, word of mouth referrals from patients, and then partners. And I would, since you mentioned it, I would include employers as potential partners as well. We have had a couple of relationships that work out really well along those lines. And then the other one is cold traffic. So, and I'll go through the big 3. Very difficult if I'm working with a patient to ask for a word of mouth referral and then say, hey, by the way, only send them here if they have XYZ insurance, right? You can't do that. And same thing with physicians. Very difficult unless there's some sort of relationship with a healthcare system or something unique there. Reactivations. I'm seeing a lot done along these lines. Here is the easiest one that is reproducible. So you keep a patient list, I'm sure, for 25 offices, giant patient list, thousands of names on there. As part of that patient list, you also have a record, which is a pretty good educated guess of the type of insurance that person has now, the payer. 2 types of things we can do for reactivations. One is a one-to-one communication. So that's where I, the clinician, am sending you, the patient, a very individualized, personalized communication. Could be text, could be email, could be direct message, could be direct mail. And then the other one is a one-to-many, like a campaign, for lack of a better term, and email, text, direct mail all work well there. We've seen a lot of success here more recently, especially within the last 4 years, around text, even more so than email. Most people are more responsive to text than email. So what we can do, a quick, easy exercise I always give for somebody who's not doing anything at all with reactivations is, okay, take your patient list, go through, segment out your best payer, whoever the best payer is, your most favorable contract rate or whatever that looks like, whether it's in network or out of network, or if it's a cash-based type practice, just go to the people. It's called frequency, recency, money. So they've been there the most frequent, and they've ultimately invested the most money in cash-based services. But nonetheless, you want to hedge your bet if you're going to put in effort here on one-to-one. So let's say we have a name, and that name is Yehi, since Yehi's here, right? So she comes up on the list. And what I'm looking for next is somebody who has been in more than 6 months ago for the last visit, but less than 2 years ago, kind of the sweet spot. And I'll send out a very simple message, but it's personal. Yehi, it's been 7 months since I last saw you for your shoulder pain. How are you doing? Very, very simple. That in a text is about a 90% response rate. Takes a lot of time to do.
Right.
So you would need like a CRM, which we have here at Breakthrough, or another type tool in order to send out 10,000 of those at the same time. But that's the general message. The key, which is overlooked in private practice in general, is that once once the person responds to that message, then you have to have a human to human conversation. You can't automate that yet, although I've been playing around with few people have been showing me AI tools. I think it's getting close.
Yeah.
Carl, the CEO here at Breakthrough, had programmed in to AI. I think it was the for Omni, the ChatGPT for Omni. And it was, I believe her name was Emily, and she was a receptionist here in Harrisburg. And I tried to throw it off a little bit. I said, what's your favorite coffee shop? And it said Little Amps, which was like a pretty crazy answer for that. Little Amps is really a coffee shop here. I think there are only three in the country right now, two in Pennsylvania, one in California. Uh,
Weird.
are you in California right now?
Yeah, it's San Luis Obispo, like Central Coast.
Got it. So
How funny.
yeah, pretty cool stuff there. But yeah, reactivations, you can do that one-on-one message. You can reactivate people who have better pay. You're trying to influence your payer mix. That's an easy way to do it. Next level up would be partners. So this is primarily going to be people who are, and what we look for are large employers that offer the best paying insurance to their employees. So we all have that patient list. Many times we're collecting the name of the employer as well. So I think, for any practice that's looking to influence their payer mix, they should know like the top 10 or top 20 largest employers in their area who are offering the best insurance.
Mhm.
The next thing to do is create relationships there. Give one example. For the last 20 years, we've had a really good relationship with a credit union that's local. They have about 550 employees. They take really good care of their employees with the benefits. That credit union has even had a relationship with other large physical therapy provider corporate partners, and they'll still include us. So they'll bring us in for health fairs, screening days, lunch and learns, and they're basically promoting us. It's our time and our expertise and our information, but they're investing in letting all of their 550 employees know
Mhm.
that we're going to be. They actually pay their employees to watch the lunch and learn,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
That's
So
all.
yeah, it's a lot that you can do there. I know we also have good relationships with some municipalities, and there we just hedge our bet with the more affluent. So, for example, Hershey's probably one of the wealthiest areas where we're at here in central PA, and their municipality promotes something called Walk with a Doc, where the therapist will walk for 30 minutes. Jan Grove will walk around 30 minutes to an hour with citizens there in Derry Township in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they get to ask Jan anything while she has an eye on, evaluating gait and stuff like that. But yeah, you can have partners promote you. That works really well, and it's something subtle that you can do to influence the payer mix. Cold traffic marketing is this is a fun one. So one of my favorite books of all time is Charles Duhigg's Habit. So, and in that he talks about how high-end marketers and data scientists will try to figure out buying behaviors of affluent. And in retail specifically, he tells a story about Target. And in retail, that, Target, Kohl's, Costco, anything along those lines, a pregnant female is called the golden goose of retail, because if she changes her buying habits while she is expecting, it's very likely that she becomes a lifelong customer. It's the same for conservative care as well. So in that book, he shares number one consumer in the world is a 48-year-old high school educated mother, grandmother, or a 53-year-old college educated mother, grandmother. Number one consumer in the world, which is kind of wild to think about. And at least for our services, we have built our entire practice around that, serving that same population. She schedules more appointments than anyone else. She's very social. There's lots of reasons why. Target in the early 2000s wanted to figure out how to reach her. And what they figured out is that based on buying behavior, there are four things that a woman, the second that she learns that she's pregnant, she will buy. I don't remember all four off the top of my head, but I believe they are unscented lotion, washcloths, cotton swabs, and there's another one that I can't remember. But yeah, Charles Duhigg Habit, he references this. And
Prenatal care.
what was it?
Prenatal vitamins.
It is prenatal vitamins. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. It's prenatal vitamins. So when she buys those four things, it'll trip a trigger within Target's marketing system. And what they did in the very beginning is they would send out entire flyers that were personalized or catering to the expecting mother. And what happened, I believe it was in Minnesota, there was a superintendent or a high school principal. His daughter received this mailer from Target showing basically all these promotions around for expecting mothers. The dad grabbed it and ran into Target and, screaming at the manager, "Why are you sending this to my daughter?" He didn't know she was pregnant. She hadn't told him yet. And the store manager had no idea this was something that corporate had done. But, for us, we're essentially trying to do the same thing. So what we've done in the past is we will pull blocks or cohorts of our best patients, and primarily best paying patients. So you can do it by diagnosis, right? Every practice should have a breakdown of what are the diagnoses that are the most profitable, most advantageous for your practice to be seeing. I'll give some examples there. We used to specialize in pelvic floor biofeedback. And on average, we were seeing somebody for 4 visits for a plan of care. Just brutal for us to go to cold traffic marketing to attract that in. And same thing for BPPV, right? On average, it's 2.7 visits or something like that. We're not going to take out, $2,000 in Facebook or Instagram ads to promote BPPV. So breaking down the value of plans of care per diagnosis is something that's fairly intelligent and smart to do when you're thinking about cold traffic marketing. For us, rotator cuff is number one. It's easiest to compete with, and we also do pretty well with back pain. So there are two of the top things that we promote when we're doing cold traffic marketing. I'll share one more, which is we did revisit pelvic floor recently because we have 2 therapists who specialize in that. And I told this story already. I'll tell it again. When we develop an advertising campaign specific for a diagnosis, there's a process that we go through. The first thing is what we'll do is we'll grab 20 or so testimonials of patients who've received care. And the main thing that we're trying to do there in the messaging is look for keywords and phrases that they use to describe how bad life was before treatment and how well they're doing right now. We're looking for the words that they use to describe their transformation. We don't care how the clinician thinks about it because we're not advertising to clinicians, we're advertising to patients. And very specifically, we're advertising to that, for us, it's 45 to 64-year-old family-oriented female. So we'll grab those testimonials, that I'll pull that data, before we sit down to write out the messaging for the advertising. When we did it for pelvic floor, and we get to work with a lot of practices that specialize in pelvic floor, there are three big target markets. Number one is expecting mothers and new moms. We know the incident rate of pelvic issues and back pain with an expecting or a new mom is about 50% based on research. So it's very common, huge market, and they're highly underserved. The second market is men who have prostate issues or pathologies. And the third is people undergoing gender reassignment. And so from talking with the owners that we work with, they were the three groups that came out. When we first generated our messaging and I was reading through it, we were trying to be everything to everybody. Very difficult to do and a pretty common marketing mistake. So what we did is we dialed it back and we said, okay, so the three groups, which one is most prevalent? Which one are we most likely to get a response from? We looked at some meta metrics. So through Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising, which one of these is easiest to reach and is going to be most efficient? Did a couple of split tests beforehand. And the winner for us, the easiest to reach person demographic was the expecting and the new mothers. It beat. So for about 8 years, our control has been rotator cuff. This was the first thing that we've ever done, pelvic floor, that actually beat rotator cuff. It's better response rate for the potential patient. She comes to whatever we're offering, whether it's an appointment or a workshop, and the conversions are significantly higher. So we can reach her for less money. She's consuming those media types, and the willingness to pay is better than the other markets that we've tested so far. So we'll build the other ones out eventually and, continue to grow and expand that. But that's a bit of the behind the scenes of what we're doing in terms of how to reach specific demographics with cold traffic marketing. The most common error that I'll see when I'm talking with an owner one-on-one is they'll say, I tried this, it didn't work. Show me what you've done. I'll go through it. And most often they don't pick a very specific target market that makes sense for them financially. They're trying to be everything to everybody. They don't want to turn away business. And they're not specific enough in not only who they're going after, but the problem that they're trying to solve. And it makes the message very, very watered down. So just quick key takeaway again, reactivations, partners, cold traffic marketing, all ways that we can, processes that we can have in place to attract better paying patients across the board. And I believe it's pretty timely because I think a week ago we just got potentially hit with another cut here in 2025, which is wonderful. All right, so open this up for any questions, cold traffic marketing, partners, reactivations, any questions that you have.
What was the book you were referring to when I first got on?
Charles Duhigg, I believe it's Duhigg, and the book is called Habit, Habit. If you're into behavioral psychology and marketing, it is fantastic. He also has a new book out, which I've gifted now several times, called Super Communicators, and the feedback from others that I've gifted it to. I very much enjoy the book. He writes really well, but I've gotten positive feedback from the people I've given the book to. Yeah, great writer.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Other questions?
Not so much a question, but you did reach out to me, last week about asking for a pelvic floor therapist in our company. And I talked to Morgan Dorenzi yesterday about
Nice.
it, but it sounds like or next week, I'm going to get on his schedule and with one of the directors to talk about how you're doing some of that. Like we have about 2 therapists that are out of our 115 that are interested in pelvic floor or want to champion it.
Yep.
But always looking for a way to scale that. So that was super helpful to hear from the number 1, 2, and 3 right there.
Yeah. And Ryan, I'll share something a little more advanced that I wasn't prepared for, but the 2 clinicians that we have that specialize in pelvic floor, they brought up the concern right away, which was, why is all of our advertising so narrowly focused? And so very much what I shared with you here is exactly the conversation that we had to have, because they did not want to be exclusive. And the way that we laid it out, and was severalfold. One is, if there's a 77-year-old gentleman who sees if we're advertising a pelvic floor workshop, for example, and he registers, we're not going to exclude anybody, right? So, but we have to be specific in our advertising if we're going to have any effectiveness at all in order to get somebody through the door. The other thing that we can always do, and this is what I encouraged Ava and Tilly, who are the therapist that I was talking with here, I said, we can go out and find support groups, and we can always go out into the community and do speaking if that would make you feel more comfortable. And so there was some confusion early on, why are we being so specific? Are we being exclusive? And once we had that conversation and they actually did the workshop and saw how responsive everybody was, those concerns were greatly diminished.
So when you're doing your cold traffic marketing, this is all for a class that you're going to have to educate people on what you can do about that? Or is it just more general advertising that, this is something we offer?
Great question. So we're scientists, right? For the most part, we're clinicians. So early in private practice, when I started looking at what other people were doing in private practice, what I noticed is most of us try to do branding. And branding is trying to get an association of a feeling of something feel good with a logo. And the example that I'll use is right out my window. There is a large corporate rehab provider that frequently runs an ad, and it's a picture of a gentleman in I'm going to guess his 70s, very handsome, and he's golfing. And there's nothing else, but it says something about like get back into life, and then the logo of the rehab company. That's the whole ad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess that doesn't work well. From experience, for me, it works very poorly. So that's branding, and that's the majority of what we see in private practice. On the other end, you have direct response, and direct response advertising is like, once I learned this, and starting in like 2011, when I just completely redid everything that we were doing and was turned on to this by a friend, direct response always involves some sort of action, right? So they're calling our office, they're clicking on a link to schedule an appointment or register for an event, whatever it might be. So we use direct response repeatedly. There's been a ton written on this, but yeah, direct response. But there's always an offer and there's always a call to action so we can measure. Here's the deal. When you do direct response the right way, you get a branding effect. So when I was in the gym yesterday morning, there was two members. One of them said, "Hey, can you take a look at my knee?" Somebody else said, "Can you take a look at my shoulder?" Because all of our advertising is on education around shoulder and knee pain. And we do it very lay, right? So I'm not teaching other clinicians this. I'm talking with people about their shoulder pain, back pain, knee problem, now pelvic issues as well. 3 things that you can offer in order to get a response in your ad. You can offer a product. So for most of us, that would be like offering a stress ball or a TheraBand or a t-shirt or a mug or something like that, right? Does not work well in terms of sustained effectiveness. It's probably the worst thing to offer. God bless you. Second thing that we can offer is a service. There's another facility here about 100 yards away from where I'm sitting right now, and they offer a $40 massage, and it's really a gateway into their clinic, their treatment clinic, right? So you could do a free or discounted service. That we have seen work very well once, but quickly drops off. So you almost get, they call it the Groupon effect. I've had podcast episodes on this. Jeff Langmaid, I remember, came on, the smart chiropractor, and had talked about like the results of this happening, the voucher type economy, where it's like we're offering a free service or a free product, and really what it does, or discounted service, and it dampens our brand image over time. The third thing that we can offer is education. Back in 2011, when I was started studying direct response marketing, I chose to do that first. The first workshop that I had ever done, I think you called it a class or a session, seminar, it's all the same thing. The first workshop I had ever done was back in 2000. And when I was looking for something to promote, that was the one that resulted in the most patients. Now I had no idea how to set up the structure of the workshop and no idea how to close. So I learned how to do that, but I knew that we could get people interested in that. And then we hosted a workshop and 27 people showed up for it. So offering education information long-term is almost always your best bet. It's not a new concept. Elizabeth Longfellow, first female physician in the US. She was in New York. She was prohibited from advertising in the AMA back in the 1860s. The way that she circumvented that, she started doing educational lectures for women. What was literally that's what they were called. And she had an amazingly successful career around that because she was advertising for educational lectures. We're doing the same thing, except we call them a pelvic floor workshop or something like that. So we have I've written about this in Killer Marketing Secrets. I think I taught 27 different classes now on how to host the workshops. We do them at our live events as well. But yeah, there's a structure that works. And by the way, other owners have taken this far beyond what I had ever learned in my 250 some odd times of running workshops. But yeah, that's typically what we're offering in our cold traffic marketing is we go to that every once in a while, maybe once a year, twice a year, we'll offer an appointment, but we don't do it for any sort of sustained effort at all when we're talking about cold traffic marketing. That potential patient needs time with us to learn, to know, like, and trust us before they're going to schedule an appointment. And it buys us time. Have you ever done cold traffic marketing? You don't need to, right? 6-week waiting list.
We really haven't done any marketing, not to say that we shouldn't. We're like 4 weeks out now for initials, but
Okay.
we're full. And that's always been the challenge is I think for us is, keeping our name out there, but I don't know what I would do with 27 new patients. I don't, we'd be like, well, we can see you in September, so there's that fine line of spending money on something, but then not being able to fulfill because I can't get them in.
If you have enough demand, and Bob Kowalik has talked about this frequently, and he said, for those of us that are struggling with declining reimbursements and thin margins or have concerns about that, if we create enough demand for our services, it gives us flexibility and flexibility to go out of network with certain payers or renegotiate rates with confidence. And he said the insane thing is many owners will have our current schedules and census is full of let's say a low cap payer at $55 a visit or something like that. And we have somebody on our waiting list that's our best payer. That is completely illogical, right? And it's an unfortunate part of what's going on in healthcare right now, but we have to pay attention to that math or we end up closing our doors, right? Especially with the paper thing.
And we definitely need to focus more on getting Anthem patients instead of Medicare patients. That's a huge difference between what they pay out here.
Yeah. Makes sense. So I would think about it like that. Is there something that we can be doing to attract more Anthem patients and improve our payer mix in the right direction?
Well, and even private pay, we're about a third private pay. I would rather grow the private pay business and Anthem and completely get rid of Medicare. But I feel like every referral that keeps coming through, it's another Medicare patient, another Medicare patient.
Very, very real world problem. Thank you, everybody, for your engagement and participation. Great talking with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for doing this like this. It's nice. I mean, you have so much knowledge and I really appreciate your willingness to share. And it's great to get on with other owners to see, what they're doing and how they're being successful. And it's awesome. Love it.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
Have I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some like small group stuff with local practitioners, but it's not all PT owners. So, you know, issues that a chiropractor is having or a naturopath is having isn't necessarily the same thing that we're having, So this is nice.
I've done quite a few of these in terms of been involved in other groups. And there are two things that I see typically happen. One is like an unwillingness to share. Like if I'm winning, the only way for me to win is for you to lose. That
Yeah.
bugs me a little bit. So we wanted to create, and the breakthrough team is really, this was their idea. So full credit to them for, and they found it in SaaS software,
Hmm.
which was great. So show me an example of this, great. And we brought it here. But so that is one where the only way for me to win is for you to lose, zero-sum game. That's kind of crazy. And I'm completely blanking on the other reason. Oh, the other one is negative. Like they turn negative really quick, where the only thing that we focus on is here's our problem. We all agree that we're having this problem, but there's like zero best practice solutions. And I get to cheat, right? I get to talk with owners that are winning in different segments of the market. And I'm doing nothing more than sharing those ideas with everybody else because ultimately in the end, I think we're all better off with private practice succeeding together rather than battling each other. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
just
Love that.
awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Remember to visit getbreakthrough.com to access our free resource library designed specifically for private practice growth. While you're there, make sure you register for a complimentary growth assessment to learn about potential opportunities for growth in your local market. Again, thank you for tuning into the Grow Your Practice podcast and supporting our mission to help people in pain get back to normal naturally.